Thank you very much. Such a pleasure to be here this morning with all these people. And, thank you for joining us. We're here to talk about something that is very important, and addressing the issue of human trafficking is obviously an extremely important issue. And I'm very proud to be standing here surrounded by such a great group of advocates, stakeholders, and, yes, survivors. As a society, we need to prevent human trafficking from happening. We need to rescue the victims of human trafficking. But we also need to ensure that the survivors of human trafficking can claim their life back. And the proposed legislation that I tabled yesterday with the support of my colleagues, the Protection from Coerced Debt Incurred in Relation to Human Trafficking Act, is one way for us to remove some of the barriers that survivors of human trafficking face when trying to rebuild their lives. This really is a nonpartisan issue, and I am so grateful that MPP Lori Scott, Chris Glover, and MPP Mike Schreiner for their willingness to work with me on this and to co-sponsor my private member's bill. This bill really has the potential to change the lives of survivors of human trafficking in Ontario, and I am glad that we can all work together to move this important initiative forward. Now, there's been some people that have been working really hard in the background that have contacted us, over a period of at least 2 years to convince us and to demonstrate to us how important that the impact of coerced debt is having on the lives of people. And I want to thank those people for really bringing us together. I also want to thank Kalish from the Victims Services Toronto for her unwavering advocacy on this issue and for all the work done to support victims of human trafficking. Thank you also to Jess Weiser from Equifax, who's here with us, for being here, because this bill obviously has a big impact on credit agencies, and it is a great pleasure to have the support of your organization. Last but not least, I want to thank Michelle Virtuelli, a survivor who's joining us today. She's a survivor of human trafficking, and she will share with all of us the practical impact that this bill will have on survivors of human trafficking. I'm so grateful that you accepted to join us today. So this bill is one step in the right direction, and I know that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. But I am hopeful that the collaboration that we see today will continue, as we all are committed and determined to make great progress on this issue. So I want to thank you, and I will turn it over to MPP Scott to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much, MPP Collard, for your dedication and passion to fight human trafficking in our province. I've been working for many years and through different ministries and in opposition and in government, and it is another step forward, this bill, so that we can assist survivors of human trafficking to rebuild their lives, and it's rebuild their independence and their ongoing lives, but also, in Michelle's case that's here today, the fact that she's a survivor, but such a strong advocate that works to help other victims become survivors. And so a lot of great credit to Michelle for being here today. It's definitely a nonpartisan issue, as you can see, and I've worked with many of the members here for several years. And Carly has been an incredible advocate and her many roles to fight human trafficking. So I really thank her for being here today. So this is ongoing, and this is another step, and I'm really pleased to support MPP Collard's bill today. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Chris Glover. I'm the MPP for Spadina, Fort York. Human trafficking is an absolutely sickening crime. The average age of a victim when they're first trafficked is 14 years, and the average trafficking period is 3.5 years. As well as sexual violence, traffickers steal their identities and take out OSAP loans and credit cards in their names. And many survivors are stuck in shelters because they can't rent a place because their credit rating has been destroyed by their trafficker. Others are pursued by collection agencies, and many are forced to pay debts they do not owe. The financial exploitation means that survivors are re-victimized after they've escaped. And I want to thank Project Recover, which has helped 1,000 survivors to resolve $4 million in fraudulent debts. And while this work has transformed the lives of many victims, there is a need for the government to step in. And I want to thank MPP Collard for bringing forward this legislation to eliminate fraudulent debts from the records of survivors. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Schreiner, the MPP for Guelph and leader of the Ontario Green Party. Michelle, I want to thank you for being here today to have the courage of sharing your story. And Carly, thank you for your unwavering advocacy through victim services. And I just want to say to MPP Collard and my colleagues, MPP Scott, MPP Glover, I think today shows what is good about Ontario politics, that all four parties in the legislature can come together to speak out on such an important bill. Addressing human trafficking is a nonpartisan issue, and everyone on all sides of the House can agree that survivors deserve to move their life forward without having the past haunt them. This important bill will open doors and financial opportunities for survivors of human trafficking. It'll enable survivors to close a horrible chapter in their lives and move on to thrive. I also want to thank Mr. Dunwoody, who is with us today as well, for pushing this bill forward. The survivors here today for their advocacy and your resiliency, and to my fellow colleagues for coming together to support this important issue. I look forward to all of us working together to ensure this bill passes through the legislature rapidly so it can provide the supports and services survivors deserve. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, you want to take the mic?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Michelle Virtuelli, and I myself am a survivor of human trafficking. At the age of 15, I was groomed and exploited for the purpose of sexual exploitation from my family home right here in Ontario. Throughout years and years of victimization, without my knowledge, I had incurred tremendous financial burdens and debts due to my traffickers. Upon exiting exploitation, suddenly, as I tried to reintegrate into the world, all these debts popped up and they became suddenly my problem to deal with, or so I thought. Creditors would constantly call me and I would be fearful. I had zero financial literacy exiting human trafficking, and I really thought that these debts were my problem and I was forced to pay them. Imagine my surprise when I got my first job, something I was so proud of, after exiting exploitation, and creditors started calling my employers trying to garnish my wage. It was at this point that I was connected with advocates that fought for me. I could not get my own vehicle, but due to advocacy work that's gone forward, I have now been able to clear my credit, and those debts that were incurred by my traffickers were no fault of my own, and now I realize that. I now work directly with other victims that are becoming survivors themselves, and I have to say that stories like my own are not rare. They happen each and every day. I'm sure right as we're all standing here, a creditor is calling a survivor, and that survivor is sitting in fear and wondering what they're going to do if they have to pay a debt or find meaningful housing or employment. I'd like to thank everybody at Toronto Victim Services, and a huge thank you to Carly for continuing to advocate for survivors such as myself, because with all of you here, I know we can make a difference, and I'm so honored to be standing with a group that's all come together to support survivors, because I once felt so alone, and I appreciate all your support here today, so thank you.
Okay. You can say a few words and then Carly can conclude.
I'll be very brief. I don't want to monopolize your time, but my name is Jess Weiser from Equifax Canada. We're very happy to be here today. Certainly support the principles in this bill insofar as they relate to credit bureaus. Equifax Canada is happy to do its part to support victims and survivors of human trafficking. So congratulations, MPP Collard, and to the other co-sponsors.
Thank you.
I just have to say, Michelle, your courage, resilience, and advocacy for other survivors and harnessing your lived experience to support other people is just so heartening and empowering, and I'm blown away by you. Hello, my name is Carly Kalish, Executive Director of Victim Services Toronto. I am thrilled to be here today, and I want to start by thanking MPP Collard and the co-sponsors of this bill for their leadership in getting this essential legislation to where it is now. Bill 99 will help address a huge need for survivors of human trafficking. In Ontario, the average debt faced by a victim of human trafficking is over $23,000. Credit cards taken out in the trafficker's name by traffickers are regularly used for purchasing cell phones, hotel rooms, and transportation. Second to commercial sexual exploitation, traffickers use credit in their victims' names to both facilitate the trafficking and personally benefit. Recently, Victim Services Toronto acquired a project called Project Recover, which has been helping survivors for years by advocating on their behalf with creditors. Since 2019, Project Recover, with the support of many large Canadian banks and other creditors, has supported hundreds of survivors, removing millions of dollars in fraudulent and coercive debt. Victim Services Toronto will continue this important work moving forward, helping survivors prove their debt arises from human trafficking when dealing with creditors. That work includes showing creditors the change in how a survivor used credit cards and bank accounts before, and then how the facilities were used during the exploitation. Through this, we can see every day what happens to a survivor during their exploitation, including every long-distance call they placed, every hotel she stayed in, and every time she was advertised. Unfortunately, not all creditors provide relief that survivors rightly deserve. No person should ever be held liable for the credit facilities through which they were bought and sold. I look forward to continuing to work with the leaders I'm here with today and the many creditors supporting Project Recover to address human trafficking in Ontario, supporting survivors, and preventing future exploitation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I guess there's no questions from the media, so we're just concluding with this. And if everybody agrees, we can maybe take a group picture to immortalize this very good moment, right?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucille.
Yeah, absolutely.